Hey folks, Shaw75N here, and we're back with that Freedomcaster, and we've got the sanding sealer all sanded down. We've got our channels for our binding all nice and cleaned up, and so we are ready to really go ahead and put this binding in. Now normally I would start the binding down here on the bottom and work my way from the bottom up and around. However, when I was mocking up this binding before, I put a really hard bend into it, and there's a limited amount of this glue binding, and so I want to make sure I use it. So in order for all that to work effectively, I'm going to have to base it off of this point here and work my way around. Now, this is all pretty much extra, and I can probably go ahead and get rid of it, but I'll save it in case I need to bend it and use it for this portion here. All right. So we've got our trusty, dusty, handy-dandy StewMac binding tape dispenser here, provided by Martin Lucas of L&M Guitar Corner. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and start taping this thing off. And our next episode, what we'll do is we're going to start taping it off. So we're going to go ahead and tape off get all the vinyl binding set. Then we'll turn it over. We'll do the top binding, and then we'll go ahead and we'll use the Ace Frehley sauce or the acetone and go ahead and lock it all into place. So it's pretty simple here. Now that we've got our bend, and this was the area here that we based it all around. The really cool thing is how that eagle head is going to be locked up in the binding. Now, I'm going to try to put as little tape as I can in, because as you're putting your acetone in, you want to go ahead and take the stuff off and put it on. And the tape can kind of ruin the binding if you get too much acetone down in there. But it also will pull away if you don't have enough. So, we've got our different thicknesses of our binding, and so here, where I want to pull that back in some, I can go ahead and use that thin binding tape. And so we're just going to go ahead, and of course I'm blocking everything, aren't I? Okay. Now we'll get a medium thickness here. And we're going to want to lock this one in as tight as we can here. So we're going to need that piece in there. Now the rest of this, what I like to do with the binding, you see how the binding is, well, you can't really because it's seeing off, but it's curling opposite of the curve. And if you take your binding and you put it on opposite of the curve, it's going to snap around to your curve much better. And so we're going to just kind of come down and get it a couple good points here and there. So one of the things you want to make sure is, as you're going ahead and applying the binding and you're taping it down, you want to make sure that not only are you pulling the binding in close tight to the body, but you're also pushing it down so you don't have any gaps in the binding in the body here on the side. And so you'll see me every once in a while. I'll also make sure that I'm pushing it down. There are some places here where this binding sits perfect right there, but it raises up just a little bit. So the channel may not be actually, there could be something getting in the way. So you always want to make sure that you're just checking and making sure it's, your eye is going to go to how close it is to the surface you're looking at. And so you just want to make sure that we are paying attention to all our details here. Let me get you up and out of the way. And this is the first time that I've ever done 4 pieces of binding on a guitar. I've done 2 pieces of binding on a guitar before with both the sister. This is the first. Alright, so this is the first time that I've ever done 4 pieces of binding on a guitar. In the past, when I did the Pinup and Skulls Telly and I did the sister Telly, we only did 2 pieces of binding. And so now we're working with 4 pieces of binding. And so I'm sure that it's going to have a couple more challenges than maybe what I'm used to. And so one of the hard things is to sit here and to have that conversation with you at the same time as I'm trying to put the binding on the guitar. Probably not the best idea, but for the video, right? Because I suppose always go ahead and voice that in over. But I am very pleased about how this seems to be coming on here. And I'm also finding out that I'm really enjoying this thinner binding tape rather than the thicker one that I usually work with. So now here you see, this is what I was talking about. See how this binding curves away from the body? But when I want to go lay it down and get this tighter curve here, that laying away actually helps. Okay, so that laying away helps it keep tight to the body. Okay. And so this is where we have a decision to make. Because I got 4 pieces of binding here. How am I going to... Oh, okay. What's part of the resistance I have is where I've got all this binding taped together up here. And so let me just go ahead and break that free, because it's going to allow these pieces of binding to move on their own at the end and make that those final angles a little easier. Okay, so we get that taped up there, taped up here, and what I'm trying to do is get this forced in so I can see exactly where I'm going to go ahead and have to cut that. And if I was smart, which I'm not, I would have left my knife where I could reach it from the table. I would have been out here on the table already. Okay, so okay, that's not going to work. Get that piece in there, get you there. And there we go. Sorry, Charles, you could work one at a time and it probably would have done exactly what you wanted it to do, but no, you had to be special. Okay. Let's see if we can't get this all locked in together. No. It wants to be difficult. And honestly, what we're going to do here with this is we're going to have to use the heat gun to get it to fit in there right. But for now, we just do that. Now, a professional at this point would say, you know what, that's just simply awesome. And let's just keep doing it. Let's go ahead and get out their heat gun, and let's go ahead and let's get out our heat gun, and let's melt that one in, and let's go ahead and cut this angle now while we're thinking about it. But here's the truth. The truth is, I don't have any friggin' idea where the heat gun is right now. So we're gonna have to come back in a moment. Oh my. All right, folks, so here I am with Brother Ed's Telecaster, and I've already put the binding on the bottom of the guitar. Now I'm putting the binding on the top, and we've seen some of that in the last part of the video. But I'm going to go over some things because I don't remember whether I did them in the other part of the video or not. And the first thing is, you see how I've got the binding that is facing away from the curves? Now this makes sense because when I come around here to these inside curves, it's got a natural inclination to turn into that curve. And I'm not fighting the binding. The binding naturally wants to curve this way from being curled up. So that's going to help us to keep a tight seam here and in here on the horns. Now, the stuff where we're going to have to bend it is where we come around this part of the horn, the round outside curve. But everywhere else, it's nice and gentle, so you don't have to fight it. So the other thing that I do is I take my binding up like this, I put it all together, and I find my midpoint, and that's where I tape it. And then I've got another piece of tape here now because that with 4 pieces of binding, it naturally just kind of wants to flip out. And so I've got 2 pieces there. So I'm going to grab myself a piece of tape, and we're going to start working around the outside. And I'm just going to tape it every so often. And you can see how quick that this may go. And again, I'm trying to make sure that I don't have space between the binding and the guitar. We're trying to get all that space kind of figured out right now. And I'm only putting the tape where I absolutely have to in order to keep what I want. Now here, this is a great part where I'm going to make, in order to make this curve, I'm going to grab my heat gun. Right? And so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and soften it. Now, I'm not trying to melt it all into place right now. I'm just kind of getting it used to that curve. Because I don't want to just bend it and put a white line in it. It kind of looks really bad. It can go all the way through the plastic binding. Again, one of the things that we're doing here is as we're applying this binding on here, we're trying to go both. As we're applying this binding in, we're trying to push both in and down to make sure we're making contact with both parts of our guitar, both of our channel of our guitar, of our bounding route. Of course, one of these days I'm going to learn to talk, and that's going to be awesome. All right, so, and you can see here, okay, we'll get a little bit more of this binding here. And don't get too close because you can burn that binding. You can melt it, and you don't really want to do that. You just wanted to get it to settle into a place for you. And again, using that natural curve of this binding, kind of hold it on for now. All right. Okay, so we've got that. And we'll take our guitar and we're going to flip it so the work is towards us again. And again, see you got that binding curves away. Well, we're going to pull it hard back the other way. We're going to tape it off. And then pushing in and down as we go. Wonder how much of this footage will actually stay. Okay, so this is where we get to the fun again. Now we're going to get a piece of tape here because I want this to be nice and tight here. And we're going to start coming around this corner. Now this one, I'm going to hold it. And now here I'm going to kind of lead, and you don't want to keep it in one place. You don't want to get too close. Okay, so we got a little bit of a pocket right here. And my fingers are betraying me. They're kind of locking up a little bit here. Ah, come on. Okay, that's good. Get a good piece of tape there. All right, let's pull that down here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the heat in on this one here a little bit. Well, actually, no, I'm not. Because that curve is working for us. And so what we're going to do, we're just going to pull that nice and tight. I'm going to push this other side down towards us. All right. And that's going to do that. Now, and you can see we're going to have this little piece here, but we're going to do that piece of binding later because we're going to cut that off nice and tight. All right, so now I'm going to go around and find places where this binding may have pulled away. So now that we move things around and we've done some bending, it's not as tight to the body as it was. Okay, it looks like we're pretty good. We comes and take our heat gun. And we're just kind of convincing it to continue to hold that shape. Wow, that really didn't want to go all the way in there. Okay. So get another piece of tape and hold that in. And this is one we'll just keep working on it there. Okay. But we're going to just kind of continue to go around and we're going to lock our binding in. Now as we do that, we're also loosening up the tape a little bit because the glue is going to let go. And so I'm going to have to come back and retape it here and there. The last thing you want to do is to keep it in one place too long. Alright, so we've got our binding all taped down and we've heated it up and we've trimmed off the extra here on the top. And we're ready to go. We're ready to start adhering this. We have some acetone here in our syringe. And for convenience, I have it in a nice little jar over here so I can reload as needed. And right now, I'm just going to shoot in between the places where I already have tape. And it will naturally wick down into all those different places between them. But I want to make sure I catch extra attention to the binding that is on the inside. I want to make sure that red binding gets really adhered. And so it doesn't matter if you use too much, you just kind of come back and you wipe it off, and that's the important part because that acetone the way it's adhering this binding is it actually melts the binding a little bit. And so we'll go ahead and we'll start putting some more tape on it. And we'll pull you back where you were in the picture. Of course, that's way too small. And we're just going to make sure that everything comes close. And you want to, as you're doing this, you want to pull it close. Okay. And so now I'm going to come into this area right here. And I'm going to spread my acetone into here. And I can see it wick all the way down over here. Okay, so I'll wipe that down. Grab a piece of tape. And now as you go, remove these other pieces of tape because that acetone is wicked down underneath that tape already. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, and we'll reload our syringe. And I've got 4 pieces of binding here, so I'm making sure I get plenty of acetone in there because it is what is going to adhere to the binding. All right, and then I come back and I wipe. And you come back and you tape, and that holds it all together until it sets, which is almost immediate. So you got to kind of move quickly, which is why I kind of hate doing this part of it live on the video, because I feel like my attention isn't always where it should be. You're worried about, oh, are my hands in the way? Is this looking good? Does it look like I know what I'm doing? You know, all that crap. And it kind of weighs on you a little bit. But the important thing is to come over here and you make sure everything is taken care of that way. Okay, so I'm going to take off this piece of tape here. And I'm going to come all the way down this side here. And these syringes don't hold so much. If you load them up too fast, they don't exactly get full either. And that stuff will leak down farther than you think it ever does. So always good to make sure you wipe, because it can mess up your finish. It can melt your binding. All those things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll finish up the rest of it. I'll come back and we'll show you. So here we are. We have our binding adhered to the top, and we're going to let that go ahead and cure. And of course, here's the binding on the bottom that we did earlier. Everything is looking pretty good. Everything's matching up pretty well. We're going to let it go ahead and cure, and then we'll take it all off. We'll take it all off of here and see how it looks, and then we'll close out this video. So this is going to go ahead and I'm going to let it cure overnight. Just want to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. There's always going to be a couple adjustments. There's always going to be, we're always going to have to shave our binding down. There may be some gaps that we have to fill. I'm not seeing any right now, but there's always something you got to do. So best let it cure, leave it alone, come back, look at it in the morning, figure out what we got to do. All right. Hey everybody, we're back with Brother Ed's Freedomcaster. We've got our binding all adhered. It is looking good. The only thing we really need to do is to scrape it now and look for any problems that may be and quickly correct them. But if I'm honest, I'm looking at it, I'm loving it. I'm loving the red, white, and blue. And let's go ahead and flip it over on the back. And you can see it looks just as great on the back. And the camera angles and the light in here right now just are not doing it justice. But if you want to see the sides, look at this. It's looking pretty cool. All right, so there we have it. The binding is all done. In our next video, we'll probably do some scraping, and we'll be getting, make sure the body's completely ready for clear. So as always, enjoy your guitar journey, and thank you for being part of mine. All right, so here we are back with Brother All right, so here we are back with Brother Ed's Telecaster, and you can see we've got the binding that is okay, so here we are back with Brother Ed's Telecaster, and I've got the binding on the top. Fuck.